Not because there was no food in the house. There was a half-empty box of crackers on the counter and some peanut butter in the cabinet. She just couldn't make herself get up. Couldn't make herself do anything except lie on that bathroom floor with her back against the cold tub and stare at the ceiling and wonder if anyone in the entire world would notice if she simply disappeared. Her name was Grace, and she was 29 years old, and she had completely run out of reasons to keep going. What happened next? I need you to stay with me, because what happened next will change the way you see everything. Grace hadn't always been this way. There was a time, not so long ago really, when she was the kind of woman who lit up a room, the kind of laugh you could hear from 3 tables away. She was a teacher, 3rd grade, and those kids absolutely adored her. She had this gift for seeing the ones who felt invisible, the ones who sat in the back and drew on their erasers and hoped nobody called on them. And she would find them. She would pull up a chair right beside their desk and say, "Tell me something. Tell me anything. I want to hear it." She was good at finding the lost ones. Nobody knew she was becoming one herself. It started with the miscarriage, the first one. She and her husband Marcus had been trying for 3 years, and when the test finally came back positive, Grace stood in her bathroom and sobbed with joy so hard she had to sit down on the floor. They painted the nursery yellow. They argued sweetly about names. They told their families at Christmas with a little card that said, "Coming soon," and the whole room filled up with tears and laughter and the kind of hope that makes a house feel like it could float right off its foundation. And then, at 11 weeks, it was gone. The doctors were kind. They said the right things. But Grace sat in that yellow nursery for a long time after, just staring at the walls, and something inside her went very, very quiet. They tried again, and lost again, and tried again. 3 times in 2 years. Marcus tried to hold it together for both of them, but grief is heavy, and it has a way of pressing 2 people apart even when they're trying to hold each other close. He started working longer hours. She started waking up at 3 in the morning and not knowing why. They stopped talking about it, not because they didn't care anymore, but because the words had started to feel like stones, and neither of them had the strength to carry them. She stopped going to church. She hadn't planned to. It just happened the way things sometimes do. One Sunday she was too tired, and the next Sunday she didn't want to see people and answer questions, and before she knew it, 6 months had passed, and she was sitting in the church parking lot one morning, unable to make herself go inside, watching families file through the door with their children and their Sunday clothes and their ordinary, intact lives. She drove home. She told herself it was fine. She was not fine. The night everything came to a head was an ordinary Thursday in March. Marcus was working late. The house was too quiet. Grace sat down on the kitchen floor. She didn't even know why the kitchen floor, she just sat down. And it was like every wall she had built to keep the grief out just collapsed at once. All of it hit her at the same time. Every loss, every yellow nursery dream that never came true, every 3 in the morning silence, every prayer that had seemed to evaporate before it even reached the ceiling. She ended up on the bathroom floor, and she lay there for a long time, and then she did something she hadn't done in months. She talked to God. Not a real prayer, not the kind with the right words and the folded hands. This was raw. This was desperate. This was the kind of thing you say when you have absolutely nothing left to lose. She said, "Where are you? I don't understand. I have prayed and I have waited and I have tried to believe, and I can't. I need you to show me something. I need you to show me you're real, because right now I feel like I'm completely alone in the dark and I can't find my way out." She pressed her forehead to the cold tile, and then she just cried. The kind of crying that doesn't have a sound, just shaking, just broken, just completely undone. She fell asleep right there on that bathroom floor. She woke up to her phone buzzing. A text from a number she didn't recognize. She almost ignored it, but something made her reach for it. It said, "Hi, I'm so sorry to bother you. This is probably a wrong number, but I felt like God told me to text someone tonight and say, He sees you. He hasn't forgotten you. You are not alone. I don't know who you are, but I know He loves you, and He is right there with you right now. I hope this reaches whoever needs it." Grace stared at that screen for a long time. She read it again. And then she sat up slowly. Still on that bathroom floor, hair a mess, eyes swollen. And she typed back one word. "How did you know?" The response came immediately. "I didn't. He did." Her name was Carol. She was 63 years old. She lived 4 states away and had no idea who Grace was or what she was going through. She told Grace later that she had been washing dishes that Thursday night when she felt, out of nowhere, this overwhelming urge to pray for someone she didn't know. She said it was so strong she had to stop what she was doing and sit down. She prayed for 10 minutes for a complete stranger. Prayed with everything she had, begged God to reach whoever was in pain, to let them know they weren't forgotten. And then she picked up her phone and typed the number that came to her, a number she had never dialed before and has never dialed since. Grace's number. You can explain that however you want. You can call it coincidence if that word brings you comfort. But Grace doesn't call it that. Grace calls it the night Jesus walked through a bathroom floor and found her. Because that's exactly what it felt like. The 2 women talked until 2 in the morning. Carol didn't preach at her, didn't hand her a list of scriptures or a 5-step plan for healing. She just listened. And then she told Grace about her own dark chapter. A divorce at 40, a season where she had driven to a bridge and sat there for an hour, a moment of her own where she'd had nothing left but one desperate, half-formed prayer. "Jesus didn't give me a miracle that night," Carol said. "He gave me something better. He gave me Himself. And that turned out to be enough." Grace was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I think I forgot who He was. I think I turned Him into a vending machine, put in a prayer, get out a baby, and when it didn't work, I thought He'd abandoned me. But He didn't abandon me, did He?" It wasn't a question. It was a woman recognizing something, coming home to something. "No, baby," Carol said softly. "He has been right there every single night, even the nights you were too broken to look for Him." I want to stop here and look right at you, because somebody watching this is on their own bathroom floor right now. Not literally maybe, but in every way that counts. You are lying on cold tile in the dark, and you cannot find the strength to get up. Maybe it's a marriage. Maybe it's a loss that doesn't have a name. Maybe it's a version of yourself you used to be that you can't seem to find anymore. Maybe you've prayed until you had no words left and the silence felt like an answer you couldn't survive. I need you to hear what Grace heard. He sees you. Not the version of you that has it together. Not the Sunday morning version. The right now version. The bathroom floor version. The 2 days without eating version. The I don't even know how to pray anymore version. That is the version He came for. That is exactly the version He has never once looked away from. You are not a burden to Him. You are the entire reason He came. Grace and Marcus went to counseling. It was hard. There were nights it felt like they were speaking different languages, but they kept showing up, for each other, and slowly, together, for God. Grace started going back to church, not because she had all the answers, but because she was done trying to carry everything alone. And a year later, on a Tuesday morning in April, Grace called Carol before she called anyone else. She was crying so hard she could barely speak. Carol thought something was wrong. "Honey, what happened? Talk to me." Grace finally got the words out. "I'm pregnant. Carol, I'm pregnant. And I know I know there are no guarantees. I know anything could happen. But I felt something this morning when I looked at that test. I felt like God said, I've been holding this. I've been keeping this safe for you. And I needed to tell you first, because you're the reason I'm still here." On the other end of the phone, a 63-year-old woman who had once sat on a bridge in the dark wept like a child. "No, sweetheart," Carol whispered. "Jesus is the reason you're still here. I was just the phone he used." Grace's daughter was born on a Sunday morning in December. They named her Carol. And on the day they brought her home, Grace walked into that little yellow nursery, the one she had painted years ago with hands full of hope, the one she had sat in afterward with a heart full of ash. And she stood there holding this tiny, breathing, perfect miracle against her chest. And she prayed. Not a desperate prayer this time, not a prayer with shaking hands and no words. A quiet prayer, a full prayer, the kind that comes from someone who has been to the bottom and found that even there, especially there, the ground holds. She said, "Thank you for all of it, even the parts that broke me, because they brought me here. They brought me back to you, and you were worth it. You were worth every single hard thing. If you have made it this far, I believe it wasn't an accident. I believe something in you needed to hear that God has not forgotten you, that your pain is not punishment, that your silence does not mean His absence, that He is not a God who watches from a distance. He is a God who shows up on bathroom floors, who speaks through strangers' text messages, who holds the things you've given up hope for in hands that have never once let go. Your miracle may not look like Grace's. It may not come the way you've been praying for it to come. But He is working, in the waiting, in the grief, in the quiet, in the dark. He is working, and He is good. And if all you have left tonight is one cracked open, barely breathing prayer, give it to Him. That is more than enough. That has always been more than enough.